Everyone, and welcome to our global journey to NYU Accra. My name is Marianne Petit. I'm with the Office of Global Programs, and I am here to introduce NYU Accra Site Director, Frankie Dosian, which is my pleasure. Frankie Dosian has directed the NYU Arthur L. Carter Journalism Institute Ghana-based program, Reporting Africa from 2008 to 2019. He is the author of the 2017 book, Lives of Great Men, a Lambda Literary Award winner. His Shea Prince was shortlisted for the 2018 Gerald Crack Human Rights Award, and his Last Night in Asaba was shortlisted again in 2019 for the Gerald Crack and was part of the book As You Like It, earning him a second Lambda Award in 2019. His work has appeared in the Times UK, Vibe Magazine, Time Magazine, Transitions Magazine, Out Traveler, BlackAIDS.org, The Advocate Courts, the New York Times, and more. Dosian was awarded New York University's Martin L. Luther King Jr. Faculty Award in 2017 for excellence in teaching, community building, social justice advocacy, and leadership. Additionally, Dosian was an award-winning New York Post reporter for 15 years and its City Hall reporter from 1999 to 2008. In 2001, he co-founded the African magazine and served as the editor-in-chief. He has traveled around the world reporting on the impact of HIV/AIDS, particularly among Africans, and is a 2008 Kaiser Foundation Fellow for Global Health Reporting. He is a contributor to the Arise News Network, where he reports weekly on issues in sub-Saharan Africa. And so with that, I give it to you, Frankie.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. For Global Journeys, I'm very, very excited, and we have so much to discuss. And I just want to do a very, very brief introduction of two of the wonderful professors that we have here at NYU Accra that will be joining me to talk about how we create a shared social value in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the first person who teaches our community psychology class is Charity Akotia, who is an associate professor. She is absolutely incredible. And as you can see, she has her wonderful, wonderful, wonderful African garb on to let you know that we are now in Accra. So she's going to join us, and we're going to have this incredible conversation joined with an incredible social worker with a ton of experience, Dr. Doris Boateng, who teaches inequality for us. One of the reasons why we chose these two professors was because their work delves into the pulse of what is happening here. And NYU has always been a research-based university where people who come to Accra to study don't just do stuff in the classroom and take lectures. This is about getting your hands dirty and digging into what is on the ground here. And so we are just basically going to jump into it. If both of you are ready, you know, at the end of the webinar, you can find details of our bios and of our classes and all the things that we do. But for time purposes, I just want to start with how Ghana is dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and what that means for all of us. I was very, very happy to hear about a week ago when Ghana got its first delivery of about 600,000 vaccine doses. And this is really significant because Ghana was the first country in Africa to get this COVAX delivery. And what does that mean? Why Ghana? And the WHO has said to us that Ghana has a good track record with immunizations, getting people immunized. And this is one of the reasons why we were the first to receive this vaccine as we deal with this challenge. So my first question would be for Doris. Doctor, these are challenging times. Can you just try and give us a sense of how exploring Ghana's inequalities are helping shaping solutions to the COVID-19 pandemic? And also, if you can just tell us, we know Ghana is a great country, but there are inequalities here. If you can highlight some of those as we deal with this.
Right. Thank you very much, Frankie. And hello, everyone. I'm excited to be part of this conversation. Ghana is absolutely wonderful. I'm in love with Ghana, and I think that if I have the opportunity to live anywhere else in the world, I'll choose to live in Ghana for a number of reasons. And well, first is for the food, because we have the tastiest and everyone that's come to Ghana will tell you about red and jollof rice and groundnut soup or peanut butter soup, as some of you call it. And these are delicacies that everybody enjoys, even people from Ghana and those that are also outside of Ghana. And so it's exciting to be here. The thing about COVID and the inequalities, Ghana is one of the other things that fascinates me about Ghana, even though I live here, is how the rich, the not so rich, and the poor all live together. And so we have neighborhoods that we call rich neighborhoods. But right across the street from those rich neighborhoods, you would also have poor neighborhoods, or what you might even call slums, and we coexist peacefully. The thing about COVID is that even though we were aware of these inequalities between the rich and the not so rich and the poor, COVID and its onset in the country began to highlight some of these inequalities for us. So in March, when we had to go under lockdown and we all had to stay at home, it became very, very obvious that there were some people who couldn't afford to be locked down, because first, lockdown means stay at home. What is home for people? For some, there was no space to call home where you could be safe, because then your home is also the outside space that you are not supposed to be in, right? And then beyond the question of what is home, there was also the question of, can you afford to stay at home? If you don't go out to hustle to get the meal for the day, will you and your family survive? And so even when we were faced with the challenges of COVID and how to stay safe, we also were confronted with these inequalities and the challenges they presented. Children had to stay away from school. For some people, it was only a matter of, don't come to school, stay at home, go online and study. But for others, they couldn't do that because they don't have electricity, they don't have they don't have computers, and they don't have internet to be able to do the online learning. So all of these were challenges that just came up or became very highlighted when we had to deal with COVID. But the government and the people were very quick to meet these challenges in ways that we have also been commended globally. And so food, cooked and uncooked food, processed and unprocessed food was distributed to people who couldn't afford it. People were given spaces, schools, boarding schools, which is very common, and were now empty, were given as spaces where people could go and find shelter. And some people were also given food and all of these. For school children who couldn't go to school, lessons were now being given on TV so that children could still follow lessons without necessarily going to school. So we are a poor country. We are still developing, but I think that we were confronted with the inequalities that are in existence in ways that we hadn't thought of it, but we were still able to quickly meet these challenges. And now we are learning to live with COVID in ways that everybody is benefiting in their own small ways. So these are my initial thoughts on that, Frankie.
Thank you so much. That was really, really wonderful. And I was just thinking about when you have no space to call home, if your home is sort of like out there in the middle of everyone, and they say, you know, lockdown and you can't go anywhere, but you are just outside because that's where you live. So the psychology of that, what was the psychology of the government response to things like that, Charity? I mean, how has the government really thought about this, and how have we coped?
Okay, thank you, Frankie. Let me just pick on something that Doris said earlier about the country Ghana. She mentioned that she loves Ghana, and I would like to add my voice and say I love Ghana too. I love the people of Ghana. They are very friendly, very hospitable, Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Very hospitable people, very lovely people who are friendly to anyone, that they meet. It's something, it's like a mark that we have as a people of Ghana. Of course, she spoke about the food, our food is very tasty. We can talk about the culture. There are various things about the culture of the people of Ghana that you can enjoy or learn from. Now, I must also say that, Ghanaian people are a touch-oriented people. Our culture is a touch-oriented culture. We like, touch a lot, so patting people, hugging, etc. And then we value our social relationships very much because, we have this kind of extended family system in Ghana, so everybody is connected to somebody. I always tell my students that if you are feeling down, just step out of your house, stand in front of your gate, and you see people you don't even know who are passing by, who will greet you with a smile, and by doing that, they'll put a smile on your face. And so those relationships, I must say, were disrupted by the restrictions that were put in as a result of COVID-19. But I think that the psychology of the government's responses more generally have been to try to get the people to understand what was happening, and also for the people to understand that the government was there, to cater. Our president kept on saying, I am here to help. I am here to make sure that everybody is taken care of. And I think if people internalize that kind of psychology, knowing that the government is there protecting them, and so whatever the government says, they are able to do that, then that is a good thing, in terms of taking care of COVID-19 and its challenges. Frank, you are muted, please. Frankie.
I'm muted. Oh my goodness. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for that. I was just thinking, here in Ghana, since the pandemic began, we've had at least 80,000 plus cases. The country is, I guess 25 to 30 something million people. And sadly, about 500 people, over 500 people succumbed to the virus, the coronavirus. I think there are lessons to be learned from Ghana's response. From your vantage point, both of you, Doris and Charity, this is for both of you. What has been the success for Ghana, especially considering that this is a developing country and a lot of it has been top down from the government what to do? Any death is too much. And the number of infections we saw over the Christmas period went right back up. Yet at the same time, there are lessons that we can pick up. What has Ghana done right from your vantage point? Why don't we start with Doris? I want you to call the expert.
I think the government of Ghana has done very well in two main ways. And the first way is the protocols that were put in place to ensure that we all protected ourselves and prevented spread. And so very quickly, people were educated on what to do. Wash your hands, wear a mask, avoid crowded places, and all of that. And beyond the talk, there were specific concrete things that were put in place. So it's become the norm that every place that you go to, you'd find a bucket. We call them Veronica Buckets. It comes as a stand with a bucket and a bowl, a bucket that has a tap that you can open and water comes out of it. It has a bowl, it has soap, and then it has paper towels. And every space has this Veronica bucket in front of it. So people are washing hands, and it's become normal that everybody's washing their hands. the wearing of masks has been said over and over and over that now you feel abnormal to go out without a mask. And then the distancing, so churches were shut down for a while, community gatherings, we kept saying that because we are a social or a communal people, we are not socially distanced, we are physically distanced, and so that you can still be connected to people without necessarily being together. And so these are the protocols that were put in place by government, in addition to the testing, the tracing that was done initially. And so for me, that's the first key thing that has been very successfully done in the country. And I think that if other countries could even emulate that, we would have very, very low numbers across the world. The second key thing that's been very successful for me is the addresses that the president himself has been giving the nation. So right from the beginning, the president took charge, came out as a fatherly figure that would address the nation almost, I think it was every 2 weeks. And so far, since March, we've had about 25 of such addresses where he's given us the official numbers of infections and the numbers of deaths. Every death is too much, but thankfully we haven't recorded so many deaths. We only have just a little about 500 or a little below 600. So we've managed that quite well. But the addresses of the president has also been very good. People now look forward to hearing from him and the assurances. So every time he addresses the nation, he doesn't neglect to still talk about the protocols. And then he would tell us what we are doing as a country to prevent spread. And so for me, these are two key things that have contributed to the successes that we have enjoyed in the fight against COVID, to the extent that we nearly had a 0 case before Christmas. The numbers came way down before, that is active cases, came way down below 100, that even the WHO commended Ghana for the way that we are dealing with the pandemic. When the numbers started getting down, of course, we also started letting our guard down, and then we started becoming social again. And so that is how come during Christmas and shortly after Christmas, we started recording the high numbers. But we have gone back to our old ways. We are wearing masks, we are sanitizing our hands, and we are distancing ourselves. And so it's only a matter of time. I'm very optimistic that we'll go back to our below 100 or even 0 case counts in Ghana.
Okay, thank you. Charity, do you agree? I mean, I think there's some issues people had with the frequency and availability of testing. And I know that it is a success that Ghana tested a lot, but from your vantage point, what do you think?
Yes, I very much agree with Doris on that. You know, especially the contact tracing was key in the successes that we have made, you know, during this pandemic. To the extent that, like she said, WHO commended Ghana. We became like a model country, you know, for others to emulate. So that was a good thing. We lost our guard a little bit during Christmas and New Year. But yes, I'm also hopeful that we'll pick up again. We'll get to that 0 point. I wanted to also add that aside of the restrictions that were put in place, the government also quickly put up an interministerial committee, you know, to take a critical look at the challenges of the pandemic and how those could be, you know, handled. And then in addition to that, the government also set up a committee, they call it the Coronavirus Alleviation Program. This program was mandated to look at people who were having a lot of issues, especially businesses that were suffering etc., so that if possible, they could get them some capital, financial aid, so that people could go on with their businesses. And then another interesting success, I think, was also the government, liaising with financial institutions, for example, to ease the restrictions on, let's say, cash transfers, how much people could take from their ATMs, etc. The limit was raised to the extent that, to allow people not to be going, for example, to the bank frequently. You can just go and take an amount that will take care of you for a week or 2 weeks. All those things were very helpful. And I think that we must commend the government for that. Travel advisory was also given, where if it's not an essential travel, you were asked not to go out to any country. The borders were closed, schools were closed, universities were closed. I think these have all helped in various ways to bring the virus down in our country, and it's commendable.
Yes, if I may, I think, Frankie, yes, I think Charity was being a little modest there. She didn't talk about the Ghana Psychological Association, but you also have to be commended for the role you played, because you helped to talk out. You went to radio stations and on TV, and you talked about the mental health issues that could come up and how people could cope with the virus. So that's also something that I want to commend you for.
It was just like everybody was on board, right? All hands on deck. Everybody was playing a role to make sure that we are able to, curtail the pandemic. So thank you for that, Doris.
Actually, if you could pivot on that, can you tell me what surprised you, if anything, about not so much the government's response, but how the people of Ghana are handling, because this isn't quite over yet. If you could tell me if there's, from your vantage point, looking at mental health, going on the radio, talking to people, what surprised you with the people's response to dealing with this pandemic, which for a lot of people, it has not been easy financially and otherwise. And after you, if you could also, Doris, also chime in once she's finished about what may have surprised you about the response of the Ghanaian people to this.
Yeah, surprises. Well, initially it was kind of difficult for people to buy the idea, that there was a new virus, in town, and for that matter, they have to take care. It was, I must say, it was tough from my psychological point of view. But with the psychoeducation and the awareness creation that was carried on, I noticed that people quickly understood that if they didn't act in a certain way, it was going to be very dangerous to our health. And I'm talking in particular about the way in which urban dwellers, quickly understood what was happening compared to our rural dwellers, right? For the rural dwellers, I think it took a longer time for them to, and it's still taking time because we're still talking to them to understand that there is an issue. But the urban dwellers actually quickly grab, the understanding that we must change our attitudes, we must change our behaviors, we must become very hygienic in everything that we do. So that is one of the things that I can say about that. Another surprise for me was how, suddenly education or awareness creation that we were not doing about health promotion or anything suddenly became an issue. We just saw that we needed to tap on our skills, our competencies, and then provide some kind of education. Something we had the competency, we had the skills, but we were not making good use of them. But this pandemic actually taught us that we needed to make good use of these skills and competencies.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Doris, surprises.
Well, for me, it was how we were able to physically distance, because of the very communal way that we live our lives. We Ghanaians are people that would take every opportunity to gather together. So going to church, having weddings, funerals, other social activities, people would go in their hundreds. And then all of a sudden, we had to distance. I thought it was something that could never be done in Ghana. And I was pleasantly surprised that people could physically distance and still stay social or still stay communal. So we didn't lose our sense of community. We have learned to do things differently. And I have been surprised by that, during Easter of last year, that is 2020, when churches were closed, because it's a big deal for the Christian community to go to church on Easter, and yet churches were closed and the world in Ghana didn't come to an end. And so, for me, it is one of the things that has surprised me. The second thing is the resilience that the people of Ghana have shown. I know that when you literally have your back against the wall, you have to be resilient. But and so living in a country where we don't have many resources and we don't have a lot of things working, people have developed resilience. But then it was as if a new level of resilience had been added on, that people became optimistic and upbeat about the virus. The president's mantra of "this too shall pass" kind of became something that everybody embodied. So it was like, let's endure this for a while. It shall pass. This too shall pass. And I have been like an outsider observing while also being an insider. And these two have really surprised me in pleasant ways.
Yeah. I think it's, for me, one of the big surprises is something that you mentioned, which is sort of like for people that are very tactile and people that are huggers and people that touch, to be able to have life go on without any of that. Not even handshakes has been something that's quite interesting. Exactly. Now, obviously, we're all about, giving people the best possible education that we can. And I just wanted, from your perspectives, if you can just tell me, are there any experiences or are there any things that you're going to be incorporating in your classes going forward? Things that we have picked up in this last year of the pandemic, how are you going to use that in your fabulous classes? We can start with you, Charity.
Okay, so basically, community psychology is about prevention. In fact, the defining feature of this field of psychology is prevention. So we focus so much on prevention. So my learning experience during this pandemic tells me that we need to do a lot more on, equipping students in the class with the skills and necessary competencies in order to draw or design interventions that will help prevent, such issues from occurring. So in my class, what I'm thinking of doing is to put a lot of emphasis on interventions and prevention. I'm going to do that a lot. And then also I'm going to put emphasis on, trying to understand community life, community, sense of community. How are people making it? How do they bond together in communities? Right? We need to understand that and then use the understandings to build, effective programs for people within the community to consume. So I'm going to highlight these two things as much as possible in my courses. And of course, if we are all hopeful that by the fall things will come back to normalcy, we'll have Yes, it is my hope. It is my hope. So we'll have field trips, to some communities. We do that. We go to some communities, study how they are making it. And this aspect, I think, will be closely linked to the course that Doris is teaching, inequality. How are people in the communities managing their own affairs? Where you have inequalities in the community, who is doing what, and how are they really managing their own affairs? I'll try to incorporate all of that into my course syllabus when we meet in fall.
Okay, Doris, what about you?
For me, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to the fall semester because all of these things fall right in my alley. Before COVID, students in my class would go on field visits to just compare within the same society, the different ways people access services and all of that. And so it's going to be more enhanced in the fall semester. Now, we are going to even go beyond the micro to the macro, that we can compare Ghana or Accra to Shanghai, to Abu Dhabi, to New York, and see how with COVID, the country that is somewhat an underdog rather had lessons to give to other places. I know that some of my friends who lived outside of Accra or even outside of Ghana came home during COVID because they felt safer here. And people who also had the opportunity to travel just after the lockdown have talked about how the processes of ensuring that they stayed safe and didn't import the virus was much more rigorous in Ghana than the other places that they visited. And so I do know that for such people, when they traveled and they came back, they were like, oh, we do have something good that we can show the world. And so these are things that we will be discussing in the inequality class, lessons and successes and failures from other places. Now, moving beyond the micro, which is Accra and the small community that we have here, to different countries and different cities and the things that have happened. And so we'll talk a lot about our experiences. And I believe that when the students also get to Ghana and they experience Ghana, they'll be able to compare what they have come to learn with what they knew before coming in. It's going to make our class very interesting. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Frankie,
Thank you so much.
Can I just say one
Jump
thing?
in.
Yes,
please.
Just one thing. So we notice, from the challenges that we have due to the pandemic, that the attitudes and beliefs of people are key, in handling the issues. And so as part of the class, we will also try to put in some space where students, could design some kind of interviews with community members, with regard to attitudes, with regard to the beliefs that they hold about diseases in general, and then their attitudes towards changing their own behaviors in order to respond to the diseases. And then we will zoom in. I mean, COVID is a practical example for all of us. So I believe that in everything that we do, we will zoom in onto our experiences, during COVID era, and we all learn from these experiences to build our communities.
Oh, fantastic. I just wanted to ask, because I have always said that, Ghana, and particularly Accra, has a lot to teach the world. But what we do is that we're a research university. We're all about research and learning. And I wondered if you both could just touch very briefly from your particular classes, community psychology and inequality. What has study and research in Accra in 2021 and 2022 got to teach the whole world? What is it they don't know that is our secret that they have to come and find out? So Charity, you go first. Because I can see the wheels spinning.
Yeah, okay, so the first thing I think I will say is that from the studies that have been conducted over the past 1 year, in 2020, 2021, I think that we need a lot more educational programs, awareness creation, in our communities. I think it's one key thing that I've seen for people to really understand, COVID and other diseases. We need to do a lot more. We need, for me personally, I always believe that in doing psychoeducation or in creating awareness, you don't do it as, from, let me say, top-down kind of approach. You need to include the people at the base. You need to use a bottom-up kind of approach. So including, people from our communities in these awareness creations will be good. Because if others see that, their own people are part of the awareness creation group, and they are telling us that let's do A or B, then there must be something in it. So they quickly buy into that kind of idea than if you solely limit it to a top-down approach. Another thing that I think this will relate very well to developing countries, from the research that has been conducted in this COVID era, I think that we need a lot more social protection programs. A lot more social protection programs to provide some kind of safety net, to people. If you come to Ghana, research shows that, for example, women and the young people are those who have suffered a lot in this COVID era. And the reason is that, our women are a lot more into small businesses that were disrupted during the restrictions that were put up. So many of them have lost their income, they have lost their capital. So it might be useful from research if we have, some cash transfer program, for example, for women, to enable them to pick up from where they left off. I think that would be good. Yeah, so I'm talking virtually about flexible credit facilities, for the informal female workers and the young people in society. I think that will help a lot.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Doris, what has research here got to teach the global world?
I would take off from where Charity left off in area of social protection. There has been a lot of work done in the last year about the impact of COVID on people's incomes and livelihoods, and when they lose their source of income, the impact it has on them and their families. And so there's a lot of research that has been done, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done. We have practical lessons on social protection that we can share with the world. We also have issues of the concept of community, in the sense that for us Ghanaians, and by extension Africans, community was bounded by space, geographical space. But COVID has taught us that you don't have to be in the same space with someone to be a member of their community. We could physically distance and still stay social. And even what we are doing now, we are forming some kind of a community, right? So we can be in Accra, in New York, in Abu Dhabi, in Shanghai, and still be a community and still stay in touch. So the changing concept of community is also something that is very important, that this whole pandemic has really highlighted that you don't have to be in the same physical space with someone to be part of their community and to be able to do things together. For gender issues, we've also had some lessons about what women have been able to do, because having children come to stay home, mothers became teachers, became wives, became cooks, became everything. And so women empowerment issues and gender issues have been highlighted. The downside of gender issues also, where people are now staying in closed quarters, and so issues of domestic violence going up. It's also a lesson that we have learned in this past year. Domestic violence, mental health issues are things that have come up, that research has been done and is still being done. And so I know that it's only a matter of time. All of these are going to be shared with the global community, and these are things that will help to shape the ways that we have done things and the way that we are going to do things differently in the future.
Oh, thank you so very much for that. That's really, really special. One of the great things about NYU Accra is that we are a practical-based campus, and all the work that we do is sort of like we use the city as our little laboratory, and we sort of like get out there. So I'm hoping that Janet can show a little video so that those people in Shanghai who have not been here before can see an example of how much we use our city and the people around us for research and scholarship. So I think we're going to see that video any second now. Here we go.
Love you. I'm so sorry. I don't know why the audio is not playing. We will send this out with the video. I'm terribly sorry.
Okay, thank you very, very much. So I think at this point, I don't know if there are any questions for us. I just want to use the moment to say thank you to Charity and to everybody for joining us and listening. This has been really wonderful for us. But if there are any questions, I think maybe someone can put them in the chat and we can and handle them. But if there are no questions, just a reminder that you can find all of us online. You can email us and we are more than happy to deal with questions afterwards.
Just, we have a question. Since you talked a lot about building community and keeping community, Might you have any suggestions for building a sense of community or belonging while studying and working online?
Okay, thankfully, there are technologies that allow us to still stay in touch even when we are staying online. And so things like Google Meets and Google Hangouts and Zoom and WhatsApp are great resources. Even those that use Apple phones, iPhones, you have FaceTime. These are ways that you can stay in touch with people, feel their presence so that you are not only texting, but you can also see people's faces. And so studying online, we encourage students to form their own small groups and then use these groups and these technological apps to be able to stay and keep their sense of community. And right here at NYU Accra, the moment you come in, you are a family, and we do take care of you in that sense that we make you feel like you are part of a community. And so there are different ways that NYU Accra takes care. I don't want to take the wind out of Frankie's sail, but we do take care of our students.
Please
even
do.
when they're online. They feel like they are part of us, and the sense of community is never lost.
Yeah, so just to add to that, basically, Doris is talking about the use of social media, for example, chat rooms, online interactions, etc., to build a sense of community. And there are so many options that we have in today's world, right? So we can build our communities using all those channels. And it's a very good way. Like she said, you don't have to physically be at a place in order to build a community. You can do it as a relational community where you just connect, online using any of those channels.
First of all, I want to thank the three of you so much. This has been an extraordinary conversation, and it's well, sitting in the United States where our policies around COVID have been quite different. There's much for the world to learn, certainly. I guess my question for you is we think we're at sort of approaching the end of the light of the end of the tunnel, and everyone keeps talking about, when we go back to some kind of normal, what might that normal look like? Or do you see new normals emerging, or do you have hopes for a new normal or of some kind in Ghana and beyond?
Well, I will say before the experts that one of the new or one of the normals that I absolutely love is that wherever you go, any building, not just here at NYU, any bank, any shop, you're forced to wash your hands or you're not going to be let in.
Yes.
I think that's amazing, and I hope that stays in Ghana forever. Everyone should wash their hands. I mean, I know that at some point, maybe mask mandates will go off and people will be allowed to walk around without mask anymore. But I hope that the Veronica Buckets, the soaps and waters that are in front of every single thing, that they stay forever, that they're not just a pandemic thing, that we can all keep washing our hands the moment we step outside of our bubbles.
Yeah. I very much agree with Frankie. I also hope that, some of these protocols will be there. For one thing, we are doing it because of the pandemic, but I don't have statistics here to mention, but I read somewhere else that even diseases like diarrhea have gone down, have gone so low. And then you ask yourself why. It is all because of this hygiene that everybody is careful about. We don't fall sick any longer because we wash our hands so often. We sanitize our hands. We don't even have the common ailments that we have. In fact, this I think should continue. So I'm thinking that we're going to have a new normal where everywhere you go, every few minutes, you take your sanitizer from your bag and you sanitize your hands and you continue what you are doing. A new normal where as you are entering a block, you wash your hands, and it's also good. It's also good. And sometimes I'm like, I wish we had started this long ago. I am hoping that the children we are bringing forth today into this pandemic time will learn that we need to be hygienic. We need to be washing frequently. We need to be sanitizing. They should grow up with that. And the world will be a different place altogether for us all.
I also think that life will go back to the way it used to be, but not in that very same way, because new normals will be introduced. And one of the new normals is that we can do things differently. We are learning differently. We are staying in touch differently. I, for one, have become much more conscious of people, in the sense that I have lost too many friends. I have lost too many people around me, that I have come to cherish people that are alive. And so now I'm calling people more frequently. I'm checking on people. I'm letting people know that they matter to me and I value them. And so I see that, and it's not, maybe it's because I'm doing it, people are also doing it for me and to me, but I see that relationships are becoming more meaningful and conversations are becoming richer. And I know that moving into a period where we would have our lives back, we are going to be much more conscious of the way we do things. And we are not going to take people for granted like we used to. And that if you haven't heard from someone in 2 weeks, you would call the person or send a quick text to say, hi, how are you doing? And these are the things that I think will be new, even when we get our lives back.
Oh, wonderful. We hope so.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions, either in the chat or from our lovely host? If we don't, just to remember that we are all available, and I personally can't wait to welcome NYU Shanghai students to Accra one day, this fall, next spring, sometimes. The classes are incredibly amazing. So thank you to Charity and thank you to Doris. You are our superstars, and I want the whole world to know. And just thank you to everyone at NYU Shanghai for giving us the opportunity to have this conversation with you guys. We are here for you, and just email, text, call, however you want to do it. And we look forward to one day welcoming you to Ghana.
Thank you to Frankie and our amazing panelists. I had the privilege of visiting NYU Accra, and it is truly an amazing place, and the opportunities, especially not just in the classroom, as you've heard from these faculty, but the opportunities outside of the classroom in terms of experiential learning opportunities are pretty unprecedented and unparalleled. And so it's another opportunity to think about. We're going to play the slideshow, which does not have sound, just for those who may have come late. And we will make sure when we post the video of this panel, we will get the video I tried to show you. I apologize for the technical difficulties. So you will get to see it there. So with that, we will show the slide deck.
Thank you.